Okay guys, I'm going to talk kind of fast, but you can pause as needed and you can go ahead and rewatch as needed. But I want to be able to make sure that this uploads in time. So we are going over one-step equations and one-step inequalities. This is a review, actually from 7th grade. So this is something that should not be the first time you're seeing it. So we're going to review this because then we're moving into multi-step next week. So you're going to write all the notes, make sure you have all 3 pages, and then you're going to take a picture and submit it today. And then you will work on the IXL in 8th grade W7, which is solving one-step equations today. So you make sure that you submit all 3 pages, that they are clear. And again, a reminder from the last Google Meet that we had, you should not be screenshotting this video and submitting that. That is considered plagiarism and will result in a 0 and an email from our virtual principal, Mrs. Adams. Okay, so the basic thing here is when you're solving one-step equations, you're going to do the opposite to solve. So if you're adding, you will subtract to solve, and if you're subtracting, you are going to add to solve. If you are multiplying, you will use division to solve, and if you're using division, you will do multiplication to solve. So it says if you add or subtract the same number to each side of an equation, the 2 sides will remain equal, okay? And the same thing, if you multiply or divide the same number to each side of an equation, the 2 sides will remain equal as well. So then the big rule here is what you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other, and you have to get that in your head. And what I mean by that is you have an equal sign in an equation, so that gives you a right side and a left side. So whatever you do to the right side, you have to do to the left side. So if we have x plus 5 equals 3, in order to get x by itself, because that's what we would like to do, we want to isolate our variable, then we are going to subtract 5 from both sides. These 5's will cancel out because a positive 5 minus 5 is 0, and leave us with x. And then 3 minus 5 gives us a negative 2. You can check to see if this is right by plugging your answer back into the original equation and making sure that it's true. So if I were to plug negative 2 back into this and say negative 2 plus 5, if I get an answer of 3, then I know my answer is correct. If I do not, then that means I did something wrong. So then over here, we've got x minus 5 equals 6. So since this is a minus 5, I'm going to do the opposite and add 5. And what you do to one side, you do to the other side. These would cancel out on this side, leaving you with just your x, and then you'd have 11 right here. Okay, so again, I'm going fast so that the video actually uploads. So you're going to want to pause it, finish out writing these notes, and then press play and continue. Okay, so here we've got an example of multiplication happening. So we have 150 times h equals 675. So since this is multiplication, we are going to divide. Divide you do by putting a line underneath, and then you show the number you're dividing by on both sides. So I'm going to divide by 150 on the left and right. This will cancel out because that'll end up being 1, and it'll leave us with just h. And then I would do this division in a calculator, and I would get 4.5. Again, you can plug that in. You can do 150 times 4.5, and you should get 675 if you did it correct. Right here, we have a division problem. A divided by a negative 3 equals negative 7. So when you're doing a division problem, you do the opposite to solve, so you're going to multiply. So you're actually going to multiply both sides by the number that's down here. So I'm going to multiply this side by negative 3, and I'm going to multiply this side by negative 3. These are going to cancel out, leaving me with just a on this side, and then I've got a negative 7 times a negative 3, which gives me a positive 21. Again, you can check your answer by doing 21 divided by a negative 3, and if your answer is negative 7, you did it correctly. So here are 4 problems I would like you to do on your own. You're going to write the problems, and then you also need to show your work, just like I did in the examples that you just wrote down. Do not just write an answer here. Do not just write an answer here. You need to show your steps and write your answer. So you're going to do m plus 3 is equal to negative 10, p minus 3 is equal to negative 20, 25 times k is equal to 675, and b divided by 2 is equal to a negative 16. Again, you have to show your work the way that I showed you. I know some of you might just know what this answer is, but you have to show the work by subtracting 3 from both sides. You have to show the work by adding 3 to both sides. Okay, so you're going to want to pause this, and then you're going to go ahead and start the video when you're done. All right, now we are moving into one-step inequalities. An inequality means there is no longer an equal sign. It's either a greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to sign. So the reason we're doing both of these together is because they're done very similarly, and it'll make it a lot easier to group them together than do them all separate. So the big rule with inequalities is if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the inequality sign. And that's only when you multiply or divide by a negative number. It's not just if you're multiplying or dividing, and it's not if you see a negative number, you flip the sign. You have to be multiplying by a negative number or dividing by a negative number. So here are some examples of how to solve inequalities. Again, same exact thing, only you'll notice the difference is that there is no equal sign. Instead, it is either a greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to sign. So you solve them the same exact way by doing the opposite. So here we have 3 plus x is greater than 27. So again, we have two sides. We have the left side and the right side, and what you do to one, you do to the other. So since this is a positive 3, I subtracted 3 from both sides, and I'm left with x is greater than 24. Over here, I've got b minus 10 is less than or equal to 17. Since this is a minus 10, I'm going to add 10 to both sides, and I will be left with b is less than or equal to 27. Here, I've got a divided by 9 is greater than or equal to 5. Since this is division, I'm going to multiply both sides by that 9. Now I'm not multiplying by a negative, so I'm not flipping that sign. So these 9s will cancel out, and I will be left with a is greater than or equal to, and 5 times 9 is 45. You're going to want to pause the video, make sure you have all of this written down, and then you are going to want to finish with the last page. I said there were 3 pages, there's actually 4. My apologies. Okay, so we have 5 times m is less than 10. So if this is multiplication, we solve by dividing. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. These will cancel out, and I'll be left with m is less than 2. Notice I didn't switch my sign because although I divided, I did not divide by a negative number. Now, if you look here, notice I have stars by these ones. These are ones that you would flip your sign. So if I have c divided by negative 3 is greater than or equal to 12. In order to solve this, I have to multiply by a negative 3. Since I'm multiplying by a negative number, that means I need to flip my inequality sign in my answer. So this will cancel out those negative 3's, and I'm left with c. I flip my sign to go the opposite direction, and then I have negative 36 on this side. Here, I've got negative 2 times d is less than 20. Because this is a multiplication problem and I am needing to divide by a negative number, okay, that means that in my answer I need to flip my inequality sign. So I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 2. These will cancel out, and I will be left with d. I flip my sign, so now it's d is greater than, and then 20 divided by a negative 2 is a negative 10. But one thing I do want you to make sure that you pay attention to, which is where this note is. A lot of times I see students that have a problem like this, and they flip the sign, and they get the problem wrong, and they don't know why. So what you need to pay attention to is the fact that you are not dividing or multiplying by a negative number for this problem. You are subtracting. There is no division or multiplication happening in this problem. This is 5 plus x, so it's actually an addition problem. It's not a multiplication or a division problem. So when you see this minus 5, you're subtracting. So the rule of flipping the sign does not apply to this. It only applies when you're multiplying or dividing by a negative number. So another tip is that you need to make sure that you are writing the symbol correctly. Don't put an equal sign. It's very tempting. Don't put an equal sign because these are inequalities. And also make sure to write the inequality symbol correctly. If there's a line under it, you need to make sure in your answer there is a line under it. And if there's not a line under it, you need to make sure in your answer there's not a line under it. Those are all things that can make a difference as far as getting full credit for a problem or getting it wrong, because there's a huge difference in saying something is greater than or equal to, or saying something is just greater than. So you're going to copy all of your notes today, all 4 pages, take clear pictures of all 4 pages of your notes that you wrote out, submit them into Canvas as screenshots, and then go ahead and start working on IXL W7. And you are going to want to get to the highest percentage you can get by 3 p.m. today. Now I need to take attendance at the end of every hour according to the schools. They have requested that we're taking attendance at the end of every hour. So after class at 12:30, if you have not done the submissions of the notes and if you have not started your W7, I will mark you absent. I will go back after 3 p.m. today and see those of you who have completed and turned things in by 3 p.m. And then at some point tonight, I will change your attendance. As long as it was done by 3 p.m., I will change your attendance back to present. All right, guys, if you have any questions, let me know. Have a great day. Bye.